You ever walk into a room and just know everyone's already decided who you are before you open your mouth? That's how it started for me, a Mississippi courthouse. Two smirking cops in the back. Judge with a face straight out of 1960s TV, and my name echoing across those wood-paneled walls like a dare. Leonard Briggs. Yeah, I saw the sideways looks, the quiet bets on how fast I trip up. Truth is, sometimes the silence in a room is louder than a gunshot. You know what I mean? So there I was, standing up from the very last bench. No lawyer, no fanfare, just a wrinkled suit and a face nobody cared to remember until they had to. The bailiff called my name, and I walked that aisle with everyone watching, some expecting a show, some expecting a mess. Behind me, those officers whispered, "That's got to be him, probably one of those sovereign citizen types, thinks the laws don't apply." They were trying to be slick, but their voices carried. It's funny people assume silence means weakness, like if you're quiet, you got nothing to fight with. They'd learn. The judge, white hair and a comb over that had lost the battle years ago, peered down over his glasses. "Mr. Briggs, you're being charged with failure to comply during a lawful stop." "That correct?" I nodded, real even. "That's what the report says." He asked if I needed counsel. "Don't need one," I told him. Snickers from the peanut gallery the back row always wants a show. The judge didn't stop them. "This appears to be a minor violation. Anything you'd like to say before we proceed?" That's when it got quiet for real. I reached into my coat, slow, deliberate. One of those officers nearly drew on me. I saw his hand twitch for his holster, but I just set my badge on the bench. Not a cop's badge. FBI. Briggs, Director of Internal Affairs, Federal Bureau of Investigation. The whole place froze. I mean, you could hear a cough in the next room. The judge didn't even blink at first. Then he did, looked at my badge, then at me like maybe he was seeing me for the first time. "You're with the FBI?" I nodded. "Internal Affairs. I oversee misconduct investigations, including departments with a habit of shutting off body cams when things get inconvenient." Dead silence. The judge cleared his throat, asked if we could talk in chambers. "No, sir," I said. "I prefer everything stay on the record. Full transparency." You should have seen those officers. Their faces looked like someone flipped their whole world upside down. Let me back up a sec, because all this, it wasn't about me. It was about every person who ever had to bite their tongue just to get home safe. Night before, I've been driving down Highway 45, middle of nowhere, Mississippi, in a rental car nobody would look at twice. Just finished checking out some departments for, you guessed it, irregularities. In other words, I was working, not showing off. I prefer to blend in. But then came the flashing lights, the routine that's never really routine when you're black in the South. Both officers, white mid-30s, walk up fast. One raps the window hard. "License and registration." "No explanation." I rolled the window down halfway. "What's the reason for the stop, officer?" I asked. "You didn't use your blinker, right?" "Sure." The other leans in. "You got something to hide?" I kept my voice even. "Is this a traffic stop? Or an interrogation?" That set him off. "Step out of the vehicle." I gave him my license. "No FV. Just Leonard Briggs, regular citizen." But regular never seems to be enough. I told him I couldn't say where I was headed, federal protocol. That's all it took for things to go sideways. They yanked me out rough, called it refusal to comply. Didn't matter that I wasn't resisting, didn't matter that I stayed calm. They dragged me in, no phone call, stuck me in a cell like I was nothing. But I wasn't just sitting there. The minute those lights hit me, I'd started my audio recorder. Old habit. When you've seen enough of these situations, you learn to keep receipts. Next morning, they dragged me to court, wrote up a report full of lies, verbally aggressive, refused to cooperate. No mention of the questions they asked or of the force they used. No camera footage, of course. Just their word against mine, except this time, their word wasn't the only record. Back in court, after I set my badge on the bench, the judge asked, "You're claiming to be FBI?" "Not claiming. I am." I pointed at the badge again. The courtroom clerk, Darlene, with 30 years of knowing when things are about to get real, offered to call DC. The judge nodded, a little too fast. 5 minutes later, "She's back," confirmed. "FBI, Internal Affairs, Southeastern Division, 27 years. Every head in that courtroom turned. You ever see a room go from smug to scared in a split second? I told the judge I wasn't there for an apology, wasn't there to make a scene, just wanted the charges dropped and the officers put on leave, pending federal inquiry. Judge granted it. The officers were speechless. We didn't know who you were. That's the problem, I told them. You never asked. But deep down, it wasn't really about who I was. It was about who they thought I wasn't. Afterwards, things moved fast. The sheriff got a call 2 of his guys arrested, a federal investigator, and didn't even check credentials. He was furious, but not as mad as Tamara Wells, his deputy. She'd read the report and knew something smelled off. At the station, Officer Dell, the one with the shaved head, tried to cover his tracks. Pulled camera logs, deleted entries, hoping nobody'd notice. But the IT guy Brian, he wasn't having it. He printed the logs, handed them straight to Tamara. By then, I was already filing requests for the footage, already making calls to DC. Body cams malfunctioned again. 6 outages in 10 months, all during stops involving Black or Latino drivers. Never once during a traffic stop with a white motorist. You seeing the pattern? Because I was. When I showed up at the department with those access records in hand, Sheriff Ricky tried to play it cool. We're looking into it. No, I told him, you're not. I am. I told him to have Officer Dell's badge ready by the end of the day. Internal Affairs was coming. A couple days later, 2 black SUVs rolled up my team from D.C. Grace Mendoza, a compliance strategist with a stare that could freeze water, and Nathan Cole, a digital forensics guy who doesn't talk unless it's worth saying. We went through everything: old reports, training records, camera logs, complaints marked unfounded, with no follow-up. The more we looked, the uglier it got. Grace found training policies 4 years out of date. Nathan recovered deleted footage, not much, but enough. I sat down with Tamara. She'd been quietly pulling reports. They all look the same, she said. Same language, same excuses. It's not one bad cop, it's a culture. I nodded. What gets ignored gets repeated. Down the hall, Grace was issuing compliance holds. No field ops until further notice. Sheriff tried to protest, but it was over. The DOJ was involved now. By the end of the week, news broke. Local stations ran the story. The clip of my traffic stop played on every screen in town. Folks started talking in barbershops, diners, living rooms. Town hall meetings packed with people, most of them angry, some scared, some relieved. Parents, old men, teenagers, all sharing stories about stops that never made the news. Sheriff Ricky took the mic at one meeting. We didn't know who Mr. Briggs was, he said, but that's not the problem. The problem is we didn't care who any of you were. That's on me. Someone shouted, talk is cheap. He nodded, then hold me to it. It didn't end with words. Officers were put on leave. Complaints reopened. I met with the mayor, dropped a folder of violations on his desk: falsified reports, tampered footage, obstruction. We're asking you to restore trust, I said. Tamara leaned in. You got to pick a side. For once, the mayor picked the right one. That day, Dell was fired. No speech, no argument. Just a slip of paper, and he was gone. Tamara watched from the hallway as the department shifted around her. Some folks relieved, others bitter. Change is always messy, yeah, that happened. But the real work was only starting. Outside, the sun dropped behind the rooftops. I made one last call: send me the next location. Already? Already. Because this isn't about one town or one badge or one day in court. It's about what you do when nobody's watching. Respect isn't earned by a title. It's proven by what you do for the people who can't defend themselves. Sometimes the lesson isn't in the noise, but in the silence that comes after. When folks stop laughing, when a town finally looks itself in the mirror. I never gave a big speech, didn't need to. What mattered was what happened when the room emptied and folks had to choose who they were going to be. So, if you've ever been underestimated or had to swallow your words just to keep the peace, remember your silence isn't surrender. Sometimes the quietest person in the room is carrying the most weight. And when it's time, speak up. Not because you got a badge, but because you've got the truth on your side. If this story moved you, don't just scroll by. Talk about it. Ask questions. Push your community to do better. And you hit subscribe because stories like this, we need more of them, and they only matter if folks like you don't let them fade.